There are days in the shop when you know things are going to be different from the moment you open the door. I've been a mechanic for 26 years, and I've learned to feel these things in the air. It was a Thursday morning in March, one of those cold mornings where the sun is still fighting to break through the fog. I was on my second cup of coffee when I heard the sound. A sound that makes any mechanic stop what they're doing and pay attention. The rough, irregular, suffering rumble of a V8 engine that shouldn't be running. But it was. Stubborn, fighting, refusing to die. I stepped outside and what I saw made me choke on my coffee. A 1963 Chevrolet Corvette Sting Ray, split window, metallic silver. One of the rarest, most iconic, most beautiful cars General Motors ever produced. They only made the split window for 1 year, only 63. After that, they changed the design, which meant this car in front of me was automotive art, a relic, a piece of American history on 4 wheels. But it was in terrible condition. The silver paint, which should gleam like liquid mercury in the sun, was dull, stained, covered in years of dust and grime. The split rear window, the car's most famous feature, was cracked. The tires were bald, old, dangerous. And the engine, that legendary 360 horsepower V8, was coughing and sputtering like a lifelong smoker trying to climb stairs. Behind the wheel was a man who must have been 70 years old, completely white hair, hands trembling on the steering wheel, red swollen eyes. He turned off the engine, which died with a sigh of relief, and sat there for a long moment, just sitting, staring at the windshield, like he was gathering courage for something. In the passenger seat, a woman, 40-something, brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked at the man, placed her hand on his shoulder, squeezed, gently. He nodded, took a deep breath, and finally opened the door. When he got out of the car, I saw he was wearing a suit. Not just any suit. It was old, a bit loose on him now, but you could tell it was once expensive. The kind of suit a man wears for important occasions, weddings, graduations, funerals. The woman got out on the other side. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, but had the same red eyes as the man. Father and daughter, I realized immediately. You can see these things. The way she moved to stay close to him, protective. The way he leaned slightly toward her, seeking support without asking. "Good morning," I said, wiping my hands on the rag I always carry in my pocket. "I'm Dave Richardson. Can I help you?" The man opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He tried again, failed. His daughter stepped forward. "Hi, Dave. I'm Claire. This is my father, Thomas Brennan." She looked at the Corvette, then back at me. "We need help. Not just with the car. We need someone who understands." I looked from Claire to Thomas, then at the Corvette, and that's when I saw it. In the back seat, carefully placed, an urn. Silver, elegant, gleaming softly in the morning light. And beside it, a bouquet of white roses, already beginning to wilt. "Why don't you come inside?" I said quietly. "I'll make fresh coffee, and you can tell me the story." 10 minutes later, we were sitting in the shop's small office. Thomas held a coffee mug with both hands, still not drinking. Claire sat beside him, her hand on her father's arm, and I waited. Because you don't rush this kind of story. You let it come in its own time. "This car," Thomas finally spoke, his voice hoarse, broken, "was the first big gift I ever gave my wife, Maggie. We called her Maggie." He stopped, swallowed hard. Claire squeezed his arm. "It was 1965. I'd just gotten my first real job. Engineer, at Boeing. We'd just gotten married. We lived in a tiny apartment in Seattle. We barely had furniture. But Maggie, she always stopped in front of car dealerships. Always. And she'd stare at this 63 Corvette that was in the window. Silver, beautiful, perfect." A tiny smile appeared on Thomas's face. The first since he'd arrived. She never said anything, never asked. That wasn't her way. But I saw how she looked at it. The way her eyes lit up, like a kid looking at a toy in the store, knowing they'll never have it. So I worked. Every overtime hour I could get. Every night shift. Every weekend. I saved every penny for 8 months. Thomas put the mug on the table. His hands were shaking too much. On our first wedding anniversary, I sold my car. A '62 Ford Falcon. Nothing special, but it was mine. I sold it, combined it with everything I'd saved, and went to that dealership. I bought that Corvette. I drove it home. I parked it in front of our building with a giant red bow on the hood, and I waited for her to come home from work. Thomas's voice broke completely. Claire pulled out a box of tissues and offered it to him. He took one, wiped his eyes. When she saw it, Dave, she didn't believe it. She just stood there on the sidewalk, looking at the car, at me, at the car again, and then she started crying. Not that delicate crying. That ugly, full body, can't breathe crying. She dropped to her knees, right there on the sidewalk, and I sat down with her, and we stayed there, both of us crying, hugging, in front of that silver Corvette. I had to clear my own throat. She said to me, "Tommy, we don't have money for this. How are we going to pay rent? How are we going to eat?" And I said, "We'll figure it out, because you deserve something beautiful in this world. You deserve this car, and if we have to eat instant ramen every day for the rest of our lives, it's worth it just to see you smile like that." Thomas smiled again, that broken smile, split in half by loss, and we did. We ate a lot of ramen, but it was worth every penny, because that car wasn't just a car. It was her dream. It was freedom. It was joy. It was us saying to the world, we don't have much, but we have this. We have this beautiful moment. Claire started speaking now, taking over the story, giving her father a rest. My mother drove that Corvette for 40 years, every day, rain or shine, winter or summer. She refused to keep it in the garage, said beautiful cars were meant to be driven, not stored like trophies. She took me and my brother to school in that car, took us to soccer practice, took us to graduation. My brother Danny even learned to drive in it. Claire paused, looked at her father. He nodded, giving her permission to continue. Danny died 12 years ago. Motorcycle accident. He was 28. My mother never fully recovered. None of us did, but she still drove the Corvette. Said that when she was in that car, she felt close to Danny, because he loved that car as much as she did. Tears ran freely down Claire's face now. 3 years ago, Mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It had already spread. The doctors said 6 months. She lived 2 years. 2 years of fighting, of chemotherapy, of pain, of losing hair, weight, strength. But you know what? She never lost. Claire looked at me, straight in the eyes. The desire to drive that Corvette, even when she could barely walk, even when she needed help getting into the car. She insisted. Every Sunday, my dad would take her for a drive. They'd drive along the coast, stop at this overlook with a view of the ocean, and they'd just sit there, in the car, holding hands, in silence. Thomas spoke again, his voice a thread now. On the last Sunday before she passed, she couldn't get out of bed. She was too weak. The pain was too much. But she looked at me and said, "Tommy, promise me something. When I'm gone, you drive the Corvette one more time. You take me to our place, and you let me go." Absolute silence in the shop, just the distant sound of traffic outside. She died 3 days later, at home, in my arms. Claire was holding her hand on the other side. It was 3 in the morning, and the last thing she said was, "Is the car's tank full, Tommy?" Thomas buried his face in his hands and cried the way 70-year-old men cry when they finally let the dam break, cried decades of love, of loss, of accumulated pain. Claire hugged him, and I sat there, this stranger, this mechanic they'd met 5 minutes ago, and I felt every ounce of that pain. When Thomas could finally speak again, he said, "I couldn't do it, Dave. For 3 years. I couldn't. The car stayed in the garage, covered, untouched. I couldn't even look at it, because every time I saw that Corvette, all I heard was her voice, laughing, singing along with the radio, calling me Tommy the way only she did, and it hurt too much. But today," Claire said, "is the 3-year anniversary of her death. And I told Dad, enough. We're going to keep the promise. We're going to take Mom to her place. We're going to let her go." Thomas looked at me, but the car barely started. 3 years sitting, dead battery. We had to jump it, and it runs, but barely, and I'm afraid it'll die on the way. And I can't, Dave, I can't fail her again. I need to do this right. I need to take Maggie home. I looked at Thomas, at Claire, at that Corvette outside, carrying ashes and broken promises, and a love that refused to die even after death took half of it. "How much time do you have?" I asked. "All day," Claire answered. "We cleared the schedule. This is all that matters today." I stood up. "Then let's do this right. Let's give Maggie the goodbye she deserves." Over the following hours, I worked on that Corvette like I'd never worked before. It wasn't just mechanics. It was sacred. It was a final act of love. I changed the battery, changed the oil, thick and black as tar after 3 years, changed all the fluids, checked the brake system, replaced the spark plugs, cleaned the carburetor, checked every hose, every belt, every connection. Thomas stayed with me the whole time, not helping, exactly, just watching and talking, telling stories about Maggie, how she always drove barefoot, how she insisted on taking curves too fast just to hear the tires sing, how she painted her nails silver once to match the car, how she taught Danny to shift smoothly in that 4-speed manual. Transmission. Claire cleaned the interior, vacuumed, polished, cleaned that split window so carefully you'd think it was made of diamond. And while she worked, she also talked. Memories of her mother, how strong she was, how much she laughed, how much she loved that man who now watched my every move like I was performing surgery. Around 3 in the afternoon, the Corvette was ready. Not perfect, not like new, but running, strong, reliable, ready for one last journey. "Let me take it around the block," I said, just to make sure. But Thomas shook his head. "No, I drive. If something's going to go wrong, it'll go wrong with me behind the wheel, the way it should be." He took the keys from my hands, looked at them. Worn keys, the heart-shaped keychain Maggie had given him decades ago. "Claire," he said, "get your mother." Claire went to the car, picked up the urn with such tenderness my heart ached, and those wilted roses. Thomas got into the driver's seat. Claire placed the urn in the passenger seat, carefully, like she was adjusting a seatbelt on someone alive, placed the roses in the urn's lap. Then she turned to me. "Come with us." I blinked. "What?" "Please," Thomas said. "You're part of this now. You helped us get here. Come with us." I looked at the Corvette. It only had 2 seats, driver and passenger. "There's no room," I said. "Then drive your truck and follow us," Claire said. "Please, Dave. My mother would have liked you. She would have wanted you there. So that's what we did." Thomas drove that silver Corvette. Claire rode in my truck with me, and we went to the coast, an hour's drive, along the winding road that hugs the ocean, the sun beginning to descend, painting the sky orange and pink and purple, and that Corvette purred. Perfect, smooth, like it knew, like it understood the importance of the mission. We arrived at the overlook as the sun touched the horizon. Thomas parked the Corvette facing the ocean, exactly where he and Maggie always parked. All 3 of us got out. We stood there, side by side, watching the most beautiful sunset I'd ever seen. Thomas picked up the urn, held it against his chest. "Hi, Maggie," he whispered. Sorry it took so long, but I'm here now. We're here. Me, Claire, and the Corvette. Your Corvette? Your silver dream. He walked to the edge of the overlook. Claire and I stayed a bit back, giving space. Thomas opened the urn. You always said you wanted to fly, Maggie. So fly. Fly over this ocean you loved so much. Fly free. Fly to where Danny is, and tell him his dad loves him. His sister loves him, that we never forgot. And he scattered the ashes. The wind caught them immediately, carried them over the ocean, over the waves, over the horizon, and for a moment, with the sun behind them, the ashes glowed, like silver, like a Corvette in perfect light. Thomas stood there for a long time, just watching, the empty urn in his hands, silent tears rolling down his face. Then he turned, looked at the Corvette, and smiled. She would have loved this sunset, he said. Yes, Claire agreed, she would have. Thomas walked to the Corvette, placed his hand on the hood, ran his fingers over the silver paint. Thank you, he whispered to the car. Thank you for taking care of her. Thank you for giving her joy. Thank you for being her dream. He turned to me. Dave, what do I owe you? I shook my head. Nothing. This wasn't a job. It was an honor. No, Thomas insisted. Let me pay you, please. Thomas, I said, you already paid me. You let me be part of something beautiful. That's worth more than any money. We drove back as the stars began to appear, the Corvette purring softly in front, Claire and I in the truck behind. He's going to sell the car, Claire told me. Not now, but eventually. He needs to. He needs to let go. Keep living. I nodded. And you? Are you okay? Claire looked out the window. My mother was my best friend. Losing her was losing half of myself. But today, Dave, today I feel like we gave her something. Gave her what she asked for. And that gives me peace. When we got back to the shop, Thomas hugged me. A long, tight hug. Thank you, he whispered in my ear. Thank you for understanding. They left, the Corvette disappearing into the night, and I stood there in the shop's empty parking lot, looking at the stars, thinking about love and loss and cars that carry souls. 6 months later, I received a letter. Inside was a photo, Thomas and Claire, standing next to the Corvette. But this time, there was someone else in the photo, a young woman, early 20s, beautiful, smiling. On the back, Claire had written, Dave, this is Amanda, my daughter. She just graduated in automotive design. Dad sold the Corvette to a collector who promises to fully restore it and display it at shows. It hurt, but it also freed him. And with the money, Dad created a scholarship in Mom's name at Amanda's school for young women who want to work with cars. Because Mom always said girls should drive Corvettes too. Thank you for that day. Thank you for helping us say goodbye. And also, thank you for reminding us what love really means. Never stopping, not even after death. Always, Claire, Thomas, and Amanda. I put the photo on the corkboard above my workbench, right next to the photo of Michael and Emma, with the Camaro, because that's what this job is really about. It's not about carburetors and transmissions and electrical systems. It's about the stories, the people, the moments that define lives. It's about understanding that sometimes a car isn't just a car. Sometimes it's a dream. Sometimes it's a promise. Sometimes it's the last connection to someone you loved more than life itself. And if we're lucky, if we're paying attention, we can be part of those stories. We can help people say hello. And sometimes, what's harder, we can help them say goodbye. That silver 1963 Corvette wasn't just one of the rarest cars ever made. It was love transformed into metal and fiberglass. It was 40 years of laughter and tears and perfect moments. It was proof that beauty isn't about perfection. It's about meaning. And Every car that rolls into this shop carries meaning. Every time someone trusts me with their keys, they're trusting me with their stories, and I will never, ever take that for granted, because I've learned something in 26 years of turning wrenches and getting oil under my fingernails. I've learned that the best mechanics don't just fix engines, they fix hearts. They help people heal. They understand that sometimes the most important repair isn't mechanical at all. It's emotional. It's spiritual. It's giving someone permission to move forward, or helping them honor the past, or both. Thomas and Maggie's story taught me that love doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms. It finds new ways to exist, in memories, in photographs, in scholarships that help young women chase their dreams, and yes, in cars, in beautiful, imperfect, meaningful machines that carry us through life, that witness our best moments and our worst, that become part of our family stories, that outlive us, sometimes carrying our legacy forward. I think about that Corvette now, fully restored, gleaming silver under show lights. Somewhere, people probably walk past it and admire the split window, the perfect paint, the chrome, the rarity. But they don't know the real story. They don't know about Tommy and Maggie, about a young engineer who sold his only car to buy his wife a dream, about 40 years of barefoot driving and singing along to the radio, about a son who died too young, about a mother who fought cancer for 2 years but never stopped driving, about a promise kept 3 years late, about ashes scattered over an ocean at sunset. About a love so strong it needed wheels and an engine to fully express itself. That's the story that matters. That's what makes that Corvette more than just a rare classic. It makes it sacred. And I was honored, truly honored, to play a small part in its final chapter with the people who loved it most. Every morning when I open this shop, I wonder what stories will roll through that door. What heartaches will I help heal? What dreams will I help chase? What connections will I help preserve? Because that's the real work, not the grease and the tools and the diagnostic computers. The real work is seeing the person behind the keys, hearing the story behind the car, understanding that when someone brings me their vehicle, they're often bringing me something far more precious. Their memories, their hopes, their grief, their love. And if I can honor that, if I can treat it with the respect it deserves, then I'm doing more than fixing cars. I'm helping people navigate life. One engine at a time, one story at a time, one beautiful, broken, meaningful machine at a time. That silver Corvette is gone from my shop now, but it's not gone from my heart. None of them are. Not the Camaro that reconnected a father and daughter through grief and redemption. Not the Corvette that carried a dying woman's ashes home, and not the dozens of others that have rolled through here, carrying their own stories, their own pain, their own love. They're all here with me, in the photos on my cork board, in the memories I carry, in the understanding that this job, this simple job of fixing cars, is actually about something much bigger. It's about being present for people in their most vulnerable moments. It's about understanding that a car can be a vessel for everything that matters most. Family. Love. Legacy. Healing. End. Goodbye always. Goodbye when it's time, because everything ends eventually. People, relationships, even cars, no matter how well we maintain them. But the stories live on, and I get to be the one who bears witness. Who holds space, who helps people honor what matters, and there's no greater privilege than that. So tomorrow morning, I'll open the shop again. I'll make my coffee. I'll wait. And when that next car rolls through my door, carrying whatever story it carries, whatever pain or joy or memory it holds, I'll be ready to listen, ready to understand, ready to help. Because that's what mechanics do, at least. That's what the best ones do. We fix more than cars, we fix lives. And sometimes, if we're very lucky and very blessed, we get to help people say the goodbyes they need to say. We get to be part of love stories that transcend death. We get to witness the power of a promise kept, and we get to remember, always, that every car has a story, every key carries a heart, and every repair, no matter how small, matters to someone. That's the truth I've learned in 26 years, and that's the truth I'll carry for however many more I get, one car at a time, one story at a time, one beautiful, heartbreaking, hopeful moment at a time.